In the United States, 1 out of every 3 people rides a bicycle each year, but only 20% of the estimated 100 million cyclists ride regularly. Bicycling is a popular form of transportation and recreation for elderly people. Recent studies have found that the number of elderly cyclists has been on the rise and cited ease of use, the need for exercise, and enjoyment as contributing factors. Physical activity has been proven to improve health, and elderly people are encouraged to remain active to prevent age-related weakness and muscle loss. However, safety concerns have been prevalent among the public. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that elderly and teenage cyclists sustain the most head injuries and deaths. Wearing protective gear such as helmets and choosing a bicycle that is appropriate have been recommended to minimize the risk of injury. Despite these concerns, bicycling has remained a popular and exciting activity for the elderly patients. One problem is that the population is aging, and falling is a hallmark of aging. Contributing factors include age-related muscle weakness, deteriorating vision, and gait instability, which all lead to deteriorated balance. Muddled gait, poor balance, and gait instability are among the major causes of falls among the elderly. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, over 900 cyclists were killed in the United States in 2013, in addition to nearly 500 zero-emergency visits due to bicycle-related injuries. Physical activity is recommended to reduce age-related musculoskeletal decline, improve strength and balance, and combat declining mental status. Among these activities, bicycling has gained popularity among the elderly patients. Benefits include strengthening muscle groups used in maintaining balance and strength, enjoyment, autonomy, and improved cardiovascular function. The ease of use has also contributed to popularity among the elderly patients. However, bicycle users are also prone to cycling-related injuries that have been documented. Cyclists are at risk of collisions involving motor vehicles, often due to unawareness of surroundings. Common cycling-related injuries can be categorized into acute trauma or overuse injuries. Acute trauma may involve both upper and lower extremities, head, and thoracoabdominal injuries. Fractures involving the wrist and hands are common, and head trauma that manifests in the form of concussions, contusions, and intracranial hemorrhage is seen as well. Overuse injuries can involve strains and dislocation of joints such as the knees and ankles. There were 818 bicycle-related fatalities in 2015, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation. While the number of fatalities has decreased over time, implementing safety measures while cycling has remained a critical factor to keep cyclists safe. As a result of the large scope of that endeavor, this article aims to address a few of those problems. They include visual, strength, and cognition-related issues. There are several contributing factors associated with increased risks involved with cycling among elderly patients. Moreover, we will provide recommendations for cycling in addition to addressing safety factors to optimize bicycling for elders interested or already involved in the activity. Elderly cycling. Age-related risks. The geriatric community may have impaired peripheral vision, coordination, and balance, as well as impaired cognitive function and judgment. Age-related musculoskeletal changes such as sarcopenia, osteopenia, and osteoporosis increase the risk of weakness, instability, and fractures. Although research supports the notion that cycling is a healthy modality to increase fitness and reduce cardiovascular risk factors, the elderly community is at a greater risk for injury due to anatomical and physiologic changes associated with aging. Among 492 active adult cyclists surveyed by Kibbers et al., 46% had been involved in accidents, with the individual cyclist and turns responsible for 58.7% and 22.9% of crashes, respectively. If applied to elderly cyclists, these numbers may be higher. Due to the previously mentioned modifications associated with senescence, it may prove difficult for the elderly patients to simultaneously maintain balance, exert force, and display swift decision-making while bicycling. Morbidity and mortality. There is a high mortality rate associated with cycling injuries. Most cycling-related fatalities are caused by head injuries secondary to collisions with motor vehicles. Collisions between bicycles and motor vehicles can also result in neck injuries and prolonged hospital stays. Approximately 85% of cycling fatalities caused by head injuries could be prevented with the proper use of a helmet. Despite this notion, helmet use is disappointingly low among the community. The most frequent mechanisms of injury in elderly cyclists include falls from getting on or off the bicycle, irregularities in the ground, such as potholes or edges of sidewalks, and accidents involving automobiles. Sparse data are available in the literature to discern specific injuries suffered by the elderly patients while cycling. Luo et al. Reviewed 192 patients aged greater than 65 with femoral and trochanteric fractures and found that 55 patients suffered this injury secondary to falling while riding a bicycle. Clavicular fractures are common in the bicycling community. Noack et al. Studied the etiology and epidemiology of clavicular fractures and concluded the most common activity resulting in fracture was cycling. Non-union is a rare complication of these fractures and can result in shoulder dysfunction. Robinson et al. Deduced that the rate of non-union following clavicular fractures is significantly increased with advancing age. Although many young patients undergo surgical management, the elderly patients are often treated non-operatively. In regard to chronic injury, common overuse injuries in cyclists result in anterior knee pain and pedalofemoral pain syndrome. In these patients, biomechanical abnormalities should be assessed via evaluation of the vastus medialis, hip abductors, and foot pronation. For mild cases, patients make adjustments to the bicycle fit and ensure the exercise intensity and distance are appropriate. Stationary cycling is a suitable alternative for aerobic exercise during rehabilitation, recommending quadriceps, hamstring, and iliotibial band stretches and exercises may reduce symptoms via decreasing the stress at the pedalofemoral joint. Cases of ulnar neuropathy have been reported in elderly bicyclists, as cyclers are at risk of compression of the ulnar tunnel via the handlebars. Long-distance cycling may also exacerbate symptoms associated with carpal tunnel syndrome. Non-operative treatment includes non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and wrist splinting. For refractory neuropathies, operative management yields optimal results. Recommendations: optimizing benefits and minimizing risks are important to enjoying cycling as an elderly individual. Safety measures of cycling must be taken at all times to reduce the incidence of sustaining debilitating injuries while cycling. Studies have shown evidence of brain shrinkage associated with advanced age. Wearing appropriate helmets has been a long-standing recommendation to reduce head-related injuries and fatalities. However, data are scarce regarding which specific type of helmet to wear for elderly patients. Although all helmets offer protection, it is our opinion that properly fitted helmet will best protect the cyclist from loose head movements that may contribute to head injuries upon impact. Safety concerns and potential interventions. Considering the age-related decline of vision in elderly patients, vision checks are also particularly important. Checking the vision of elderly patients on an annual basis is vital to ensure proper vision. An individual's primary care physician or family members can decide when it is time to stop outdoor cycling when there is noticeable deterioration. Likewise, annual physical examinations should determine muscle strength and allow or refuse cycling based on the physician's discretion. Pay attention to footwear during these physical examinations. An increased risk of falling and sustaining injuries is associated with loose, poorly fitting shoes. Age is typically associated with a decline in mental ability. During a yearly physical examination, cognitive assessments are equally important to determine a person's level of fitness to take part in cycling activities. Issues such as getting lost frequently, forgetting addresses, or difficulty adapting to traffic conditions should warrant immediate assessments. Types of bicycles also play a role in safety of the cyclist. Twisk et al. Found that pedelecs are associated with higher injury risks than conventional bicycles. These bicycles, though good for riding up hills due to the ability to generate greater speeds, may be more difficult to control and therefore can be unsafe. Bicycles with lower mounts are safer than those with higher mounts, as it fosters ease of mounting and unmounting. Other minor recommendations, such as ensuring adequate tire pressures and having effective brakes, are helpful. Outdoor cycling, though enjoyable, is associated with ancillary risk factors that may pose safety hazards. The weather and road conditions pose unfavorable conditions to cycling. For example, heavy winds, rain, snow, and nighttime riding should be avoided when cycling to reduce risk of falls and other injuries. As a result, stationary bikes would be a good option, since they have been shown to reduce falls among elderly women. Additionally, bike-friendly infrastructure that includes dedicated lanes helps decrease risk of traffic-related injuries due to the decreased amount of traffic, more room for bikers, and the provision of safe maneuvering space. Installation of bicycle lanes has also been shown to be beneficial, and communities with bike lanes are generally safer. It is hard to find literature regarding specific recommendations for those who should not cycle. However, recommendations based on the results of annual physical examinations should provide an adequate assessment. Furthermore, we believe that elderly individuals with physical impairments, recent injury, notable cognitive decline, or those requiring assistance with activities of daily living should not be allowed to cycle without further assessment. Limitations. While a lot of literature describes the risks and benefits of cycling in the general community, little information is available on the additional risks faced by elderly patients while cycling. The majority of studies on geriatric cycling were conducted in Europe. To properly evaluate the elderly population from a global perspective, further data are needed from countries with various climates, such as those with varying terrain and traffic trends. Conclusion. The steady increase in older adults living past 65 has been attributed to recent advances in geriatric wellness. Almost 20% of the American population will be older than 65 years old by 2040, according to studies. Injury rates for geriatric cyclists are higher than those for other cyclists. Bicycling is becoming more popular, and injuries are on the rise as well. The risk of fatal accidents among geriatric cyclists is about 3 times higher than that of an average cyclist. The benefits of bicycling include improved cardiovascular function, muscle strength, and flexibility, as well as improved coordination and posture. However, Almedilla et al. Report that biking may not be ideal for bone health, since bikers generally have a lower bone mass than non-bikers. To preserve bone mass, other weight-bearing exercises, including walking, should also be encouraged, considering that bicycling has several benefits for elderly people under safe conditions. It should be encouraged. For that reason, cyclists should always follow safety measures to avoid potentially debilitating injuries. As promised, here's the point where you can subscribe, add comments or questions, and hit the bell to be reminded next time I have a new download. And before you leave, check out this video.